Hello, everybody, and welcome to the December Kickstart Daily Q&A. Today is Saturday, December 19th. So we've got some pre-submitted questions here. I want to go over those first. And then, of course, if you have any live questions, you can type them right into the chat on this side of the page. And right about here, you should see a link that says Ask a Question. You can type a question in there as well. And just as we're getting started, the last 2 weeks of December are our busiest time of year. So many people are wanting to get their plans established with us so they are qualified for the 2020 deadline. And the IRS says that we need to prepare those documents by December 31st for you. So in an effort to make sure that we can answer all of your questions, make sure that you have the support that you need, we're doing these daily Q&A calls. So if you have any questions, you can type them in here during the session live. You can also post them to the network. We'll go over that in just a moment. And you can email the questions to us as well. We'll answer them here on the Q&A, and then we can send you a link to the replay letting you know that your question was answered. So let's dive right in. We've got some pre-submitted questions. The first question here comes from Nancy. Nancy says, I plan to open a brokerage account with Fidelity for the solo 401k. Is that right? I have to open the account by the end of the year, but I have until April 15th, 2021 to actually contribute the money to any of the retirement account, including the employer contribution part. Great question, Nancy. And we get this question almost every single day, especially coming up to the end of the year. So I want to share my screen with you here for a moment. And I want to, in particular, bring up an IRS page for you. Give me just one moment so I can get this all ready for you. All right. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen here. And now you should be able to see I'm on the IRS website. This is called IRS Publication 560. If we go to look at the IRS publication, this is all about retirement plans for small businesses. This right here, a qualified plan, that's what a solo 401k is. A 401k is an employer-sponsored qualified retirement plan. And we want to scroll down to, I think it's page 3, right here. This table is what we're looking for. There's a couple of important things here. So remember I said the 401k is a qualified plan. So this middle column or row here is what we want to be looking at. So when to set up the plan? By the end of the tax year. So for most of our businesses, we close our books on December 31st. So that means you want to have the plan established by the end of the year. And then your contributions, elective deferral and employer contribution, need to be made by the due date of the employer's return, including extensions. So that's really important. Now, what that means, Nancy, is that as long as you have your 401k plan documents from Neighbors Group by December 31st, your plan is qualified. You do not need to have the Fidelity brokerage account or accompanying bank accounts open by December 31st. You've got your plan documents from us, and that's what makes your plan qualified. And that's what gives you the ability to contribute and even open new brokerage accounts up until tax day. Remember, your 401k is the plan that we provide for you. If you're opening an account with Fidelity or Schwab or a bank account, those are simply investment or holding accounts for your 401k funds. The actual 401k itself is the plan documents that we provide for you. So as long as you have your plan documents from us, which you do by December 31st, then you are good to go. If you can open the Fidelity brokerage account in the first week of January or even into February, that's still okay. And I want you to keep this in mind. I know we've got a handful of people on the call here. Especially the brokerage firms, they get really overloaded by the end of the year. I just actually got off the phone with a new client, and they were waiting on hold for an hour and 45 minutes with Fidelity and still didn't get through to anyone. Those are like IRS wait times. So it can be really challenging to get through to brokerage firms right now at the end of the year. The most important thing that you want to accomplish in order to be qualified to make your contributions is to make sure you have the plan documents from us. And remember, if you are new to us, all you need to do to get started is submit your application online. I'll make sure I put in here to the chat an easy link to our application. Pretty easy there, solo401k.com/app. When you complete your application, we can usually have your documents ready in just a few hours. So that means that it's very quick and efficient for us to be able to get your plan set up right away, and you do still have time to get qualified for 2020. Great question, Nancy. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, the next question comes from Mauro. Mauro says, as you may know by now, we are quite green to this whole process. As a result, we'll have a million questions as we move along. That's okay. That's what we're here for. Do we need just one checking account? Oh, I don't think I need to share my screen for this. My face probably looks really small. Okay, now you should be able to see me. Hello again. So Mauro says, do we need just one checking account on the 401k plan, in our case, the trust, or do we need two accounts, one for me and one for my spouse? In that case, how do we name them to distinguish one from the other? This is a great question, Mauro, and I know that it's something that a lot of new account holders are wondering about, is if your spouse is also participating in the plan with you, how do you keep track of whose funds are whose, and how do you know what belongs to which person? So I want to share my screen again, and I'm going to bring your attention to a couple of things here that I think will be really helpful. So go back to sharing my screen. Okay, so a couple of things I want to bring your attention to. First, this is our knowledge base at support.solo401k.com. Of course, you can also access this knowledge base from our website, and you can access it from your own 401k dashboard. There's a link that says support. We'll show you that in just a moment. So if you type in things like bank account, it's a really nice search feature here on the knowledge base, and you'll actually see we have a question. How many bank accounts should I open for my solo 401k trust? We also then have, if you type in spouse as a different search term, we have a lot of information here about spouses and spousal considerations and spouse bank accounts. How do my spouse keep her funds separate in our solo 401k? So here's exactly the question I was looking for. My spouse and I are co-trustees in our solo 401k plan. Is it possible to have separate bank accounts for the same solo 401k, one for each of us? So the short answer is yes. Mauro, what you and your spouse will probably want to do in this case is you will each establish a bank account under the 401k trust. So the 401k trust is your structure, and then you've got bank accounts underneath it. And I actually went through this in depth in a training that we did called Spousal Inclusion in a Solo 401k. And we had a nice slide in this webinar here. I'm not sure where it was, so I'm not going to play the video, but we had a nice slide in here where we gave you a visual of exactly what it looks like having your 401k and then having the different bank sub-accounts underneath. And you know, what you might end up with, Mauro, is you might end up with 4 bank accounts. That could be your money pre-tax, your money Roth, and your spouse's pre-tax and your spouse's Roth funds. That's 4 bank accounts for one 401k. Now, those are all titled in the name of your 401k trust. And what we usually recommend is that you use the online banking features to be able to designate the nickname that you want for your bank account. So when you log in, you might see Mauro 401k dash pre-tax, or your spouse Lisa dash Roth, for example. So that might be something to consider. But do make sure that you're using the resources that we provide if you go into our network at solo401k.net, just so that you know how I got here. I'm in solo401k.net. That's our network. I went to events, and then I went to past events. And then you can see we've covered a lot of different topics here. We want to make sure that you have a lot of help in going over different aspects of the 401k. So if you scroll down, you'll see right here, we have our spousal inclusion in a solo 401k webinar. This is really helpful for you to go through so that you can be familiar with how you want to set up your bank accounts for the plan. But really, then what I want to just sort of give you the answer to here is, yes, you'll probably each have bank accounts, one for you and one for your spouse. And you can descriptively name those in the online banking. Okay, so thanks, Mauro. Oh, looks like we've got one more question here from Mauro. Mauro says, can we fund the plan by simply depositing a personal check? For now, those are all the questions I can think of, but I'm sure we'll have more. Thank you so much for all the help received thus far. Of course, you're very welcome. We're really glad to be on this journey with you. And so Mauro, contributions are probably one of the most complex areas of a 401k plan because they've got a lot of moving parts. This is where everyone's trying to take advantage of tax sheltering income. So you do want to make sure you're working closely with your accountant, with your CPA, so you're properly calculating your contributions and documenting your contributions. Whether or not you can fund the plan simply depositing a personal check, the answer is maybe. So all 401k contributions are based on your business earnings. So you've got this 401k plan, that's a company retirement plan, that's connected to your company. So when your company makes money and pays you, you can put some of that money into the company retirement plan. If you have received compensation from your business as an employee of your own business, then that money might have gone to you personally. And in that case, yes, you can deposit some of those funds into your 401k bank account. Those funds are coming from you personally as an employee from part of your compensation into your company retirement plan. Alternatively, if you have a business bank account where you're keeping track of most of your business funds and that's where you're issuing payroll from, then that might be where you're actually sending your contributions from. So in this case, I think, Mauro, the answer is it depends. If you can tie back those personal funds in your personal banking account to your company compensation to you, then yes, it's probably just fine to write your contribution check into your 401k from your personal account because those funds were originally compensation to you from business earnings. Great question, Mauro. Okay, next here we've got a question from Charles. Charles asks, if I want to roll over IRA dollars for my spouse into the plan, how do I keep it separate and distinct? So this is sort of a twist on the question that we just covered from Mauro, which is about keeping you and your spouse's funds separate in your 401k plan. So if we go back to our knowledge base here, and I'm going to share my screen one more time because then it's kind of like we're hanging out in the same room together and you can actually see what I'm seeing and peek over my shoulder. So I opened up in our knowledge base, all I did was a search for spouse, and then I'm looking at the various articles here, and spousal considerations is one I want to look at. We dig in a lot in this article about how to make sure that you're really keeping track of whose funds are whose in the 401k plan. And this right here, Charles, I think is going to answer your question. And also, Mauro, this speaks to your question as well. So do my spouse and I need separate bank accounts? Many couples choose to keep their finances separate. Maintaining separate bank accounts is a great way to accomplish this. Since you and your spouse are each trustees or participants of the solo 401k, you can each establish a bank account in the name of the 401k trust. So you can keep two separate bank accounts. Remember, your solo 401k is not the bank account. Your solo 401k is a plan and trust, and the bank accounts are just the place where you manage the assets of the plan. So Charles, just like the answer that we gave to Mauro a couple of moments ago, if you want to roll over an IRA for your spouse and have those funds come into the plan, then you can do that. That's no problem. And you will want to make sure you're keeping very clear records of whose money is whose. Now, this is something that we're working on at solo401k.com, having record keeping software for you. It's quite complex to build out, as you can probably imagine, with checkbook control retirement plans. We're all invested in a whole bunch of different stuff. So some of our clients invest in Bitcoin, other cryptos, real estate syndications, crowdfunding, gold, silver, traditional equities, ETFs, mutual funds, promissory notes, tax liens. Really, the list goes on and on. So to start, for right now, until we release this software, you want to keep records of your plan. And some people go, well, what does that mean? What do you mean I need to keep records? For some clients, this is a simple spreadsheet. So you might have a tab on a spreadsheet, Charles, that's for you, and a tab on the same spreadsheet that's for your spouse. And on that spreadsheet, you're keeping track of all the money coming in. So those are rollovers, contributions, investment returns. You're also keeping keeping track of money that's going out in the form of distributions, taxable or otherwise, loans to yourself from the plan. Investments that you're making, investment losses. You want to keep track of whose money is whose. And you want to have a very clear record of each participant in the plan. So you need to know your account balance, what you've got going on with your bucket of money in the 401k. And you need to keep track of your spouse's account balance and what they've got going on in their bucket of money in the 401k. So to address your question here, Charles, if you want to roll over an IRA for your spouse, then you'll simply initiate the rollover request on your 401k dashboard. And we can go over that here in a moment. Send the rollover request to the releasing custodian. They will write a check to your 401k trust, mail it to you as the trustee, and then you would deposit that rollover check into the bank account or brokerage account earmarked for your spouse's funds, and then notate that in your spreadsheet for the plan. Okay, and speaking of rollovers, let me share my screen again, and this time I want to show you what it looks like to initiate a rollover on our dashboard. So you can see here, I am logged into our 401k dashboard. Oh, where am I? Okay, I'm logged in here to our 401k dashboard. For those of you who have been clients of ours for a while, this should look pretty familiar. This is your central document repository for your 401k. For those of you that are new to us, this is what your 401k dashboard looks like. So you'll have your 401k EIN letter, any rollover requests that you create, your plan and trust, your signature pages. We do release document updates every single year. So you'll get those, and those all live here on your dashboard. Additionally, we have forms that are available for you, contribution forms, your participant loan repayment forms, third-party authorization forms if you want us to speak with a CPA or an attorney or a financial advisor on your behalf, investment direction forms where you can keep track of the funds that you are investing, credit card authorization forms, the 5500 Easy. We have a lot of resources in here for you. Rollovers, we will touch base on in a moment. Loans is for your participant loan to create a participant loan from your 401k. This is where you can plug in some easy information and we will create the promissory note, amortization schedule, and loan repayment schedule for you. Your calculators here have all of your different types of calculators you might need for calculating your contributions, Roth conversions, etc. That support link goes right back to our knowledge base that you've now seen a couple of times here on today's session. And then, of course, our rewards will let you be able to refer people over to the Solo 401k, and then you earn referral payments on anyone that signs up through your referral link. But what I really want to draw your attention here to, Charles, is this rollover form. So this is where you'll be able to initiate an incoming rollover into your Solo 401k plan. We have a little help video here for you that walks you through exactly how to complete this form. Most of the information is going to be already pre-filled for you. All you need to do is change the participant. So in this case, Charles, if it's your wife that's the participant doing a rollover of her IRA, you'd put her information here. Whoever is the trustee, if it's one or both of you, select one of you to input here. And then this is where you'll say what's going on, where the money's coming from. the easiest thing to do is grab your most recent statement. So you had mentioned, Charles, that this is going to be an IRA rollover. So you would type in IRA. If the funds are coming from Fidelity or Schwab or whoever is the administrator, you would put that in here, get the address from your most recent statement, get your account number from your most recent statement, and then whatever your amount to roll over is. Then you'll just click this big blue button, and that's going to create a rollover packet for you and put that rollover packet right on your dashboard. So if we take a look at this rollover request form, for example, you'll see that we've got a cover letter. This is going to tell the releasing custodian, whoever has your wife's IRA funds now, it tells them exactly how to do the rollover, to make the check payable to your 401k trust, to mail the check to you. We give you an actual transfer form where you can sign and the releasing custodian can sign so they can formally document the contribution. And we also give them some additional rollover notes. This is really important. This tells them that whoever has the money now and is releasing it to your solo 401k, that these funds are not taxable. This is a normal rollover from one retirement plan to another. Taking it even a step further, we also give them, the releasing custodian, sample 1099-R, which they will send a copy to the IRS, and we tell them exactly how to fill it out. That way, they can avoid mistakes and make sure that your rollover is properly documented. So we do a lot of this because we want to make sure that you have support in getting your funds into your own control. But it's probably new for you. Most people that set up solo 401ks with us, they've never had their money in their own control before. So we want to make sure that you have really good support every step of the way. Okay, so Charles, to touch base back on the top part of your question, yes, you can roll over your wife's IRA funds into the plan. And the way to keep them separate and distinct is probably for those funds to go into their own bank account for your wife's bucket of money in the 401k. And then you want to make sure you're keeping very clear records of whose money is whose in the 401k plan. Okay, so RF says, I have an old Fidelity Solo 401k and I restated to solo401k.com. I still want to open a new Fidelity account for the new Solo 401k. You told me I needed to change something with the Fidelity non-prototype account, the old one, correct? What was that? The EIN? Do the EIN numbers need to match? You added a business and a new trust EIN, right? Do I need to make sure that Fidelity has a new EIN trust ID and the new employer info before they roll the account over to Titan? And RF, I see that you are on the call live, so this is awesome. We can do any follow-up. I can bring you on to the camera if you want to have any live questions here. But let me try to address some of these questions first. So RF, I know you. So I know that you have an old solo 401k with a non-prototype retirement account with Fidelity. And I know that you have restated your solo 401k to our platform, and now you want to open a new Fidelity non-prototype account. And I also know that you want to open a Titan Bank account so you can move some of those funds into Titan Bank. So as far as Fidelity doing the rollover into Titan, they don't care about the new Fidelity account. If you're just moving funds from the Fidelity original old solo 401k into the Titan Bank account, then all Fidelity needs is for you to call them, because with 401ks, they let you initiate a rollover over the phone. All you need to do is call them, tell them I want to do a rollover of my 401k into a new 401k. They'll say, great, who should we make the check payable to? And you give them your new trust name and your address, and they will cut the check to your trust and mail it to you. That's it. So that's the simple way, is if you just want to get those funds out of Fidelity so you can deposit them into Titan Bank, you want to call Fidelity, let them know you're doing a rollover into a new 401k, tell them who to make the check payable to, and then they will mail you the check. They do not mail the check to Titan. Titan is just a bank. They are not administering your 401k. You are the trustee of your own 401k. So Fidelity will mail the check to you. It's payable to your 401k trust, and then you can endorse it and deposit it with Titan. Now, if you are going from the old Fidelity non-prototype account with the old plan that's been terminated, and a new Fidelity non-prototype account with your new plan, with this new business, then in that case, you need to open a brand new Fidelity account. You have to start the application over again. Fidelity is not going to just retitle the current account. They're going to want to open a brand new account, and then they can transfer the assets from the old Fidelity non-prototype account to the new Fidelity non-prototype account. Just to address a couple of your questions here, we did get a new EIN for your 401k trust, but we did not add a new business. I know you have a sole proprietorship, so we did not create a new business. We use your sole proprietorship, and we did get a new EIN for your 401k trust. So you only need to make sure Fidelity has the new trust EIN if they are opening a new Fidelity non-prototype account, and if you are moving from the old plan to the new plan on the Fidelity system. If instead you're just telling Fidelity like, hey, I need to do a rollover, cut me a check, then they're going to write a check to your new trust and then send that to you as the trustee. And I know I'm sharing my screen a lot, guys, but I want to make sure that you can actually see what we're seeing so you can feel empowered to get answers to your questions. Even when we're not doing these Q&As, every day, or if it's 10 in the morning and, we don't have a Q&A coming up until later in the afternoon, I want to make sure you feel empowered to get the answers that you need. So RF, I know you already know how to do this, but for anyone else on the call here, let's say you wanted to open a Fidelity account. I'm here at support@solo401k.com. Remember, if you're in your 401k dashboard, you just click on the support link. It's going to open the knowledge base up for you immediately. And then I'm going to type in Fidelity. No, I guess I have to spell it right. Fidelity. Bam, right here, how to open a Fidelity account for the solo 401k. We tell you exactly what you need to do, and then we give you a step-by-step guide as well on how to complete the actual application with Fidelity. So we try to take the guesswork out of this and give you as many tools as possible so that you can feel empowered to be able to get as much done as you're ready to. So, okay, excellent question, Arif, and thank you so much. Okay, Theo has the next question, and Theo says, my CPA sent me the following note. You must formally elect the employee portion of the 401k contributions by year end, but can actually fund them by April 15th. You would need to get in touch with the plan administrator to find out exactly what's required for formally electing the contributions. And then Theo says, can you advise on how this is done? Yes, we definitely can. So first of all, a hat tip to your CPA, Theo. It's just so awesome when CPAs know what's going on. He's right. You need to formally elect your contribution, but then you have until tax day to physically deposit those contributions. So formal contribution, what does that mean? You can probably guess where I'm going with this. I'm going to share my screen again. I'm going to take you back to our knowledge base here. Let's go back to the knowledge base. And I'm going to just type in formal election. Bam. How to formally elect your contribution by the December 31st deadline. So this article will walk you through exactly how to formally elect your contributions. And spoiler alert, it's really simple. So formal election simply means you are documenting that you plan to make elective deferrals into your plan, and typically you are going to document how much you plan to contribute. And then we have a link to our contribution form, which you've probably seen before. Also, just a little tip here, you might remember in forms on your actual 401k dashboard, contribution form is there as well. So what you would want to do is you want to complete the contribution form, and then you give a copy to your CPA or simply store a copy in your own records. If you complete the formal election by December 31st of each year, you have until you file your tax returns for the following year to make the deposit. So pretty simple and straightforward here, Theo. All you need to do is complete your contribution form and then make sure you have a copy of that and or that your CPA has a copy of that as well. Now, I do want to go back and address an earlier part of your question where you said your CPA says you need to get in touch with the plan administrator to find out exactly what's required. So for any of you that are on here live, who is the plan administrator of a solo 401k plan? And I know sometimes there's a little bit of a delay. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can't cheat, and I'm going to pull up an article here. But tell me, who do you think is the administrator of the 401k plan, of a solo 401k specifically? Who is the administrator? Yeah, you guys are great. Woo. Okay, Glenn, we are. Yes, you're right. Glenn, you are your own plan administrator. Arif, if you mean you, Arif, you are your own plan administrator. Yes, you're right. Arif, you are exactly right. Jorge, you are exactly right. You are your own plan administrator. You guys get 100% high five from me. So with a solo 401k, this is a self-administered plan. So Theo, listen up to your other 401k compatriots here. You are your own plan administrator. So what that means is when you're formally electing, you are going to fill out that form and hand it to yourself because you are your own plan administrator. And we actually even have an article, guys, in our knowledge base that says who you are in your solo 401k, because you wear a lot of hats in a solo 401k. You are the plan administrator. You're an employee participating in the plan. You're a participant. You're an employer or business owner sponsoring the plan. And you're the plan trustee deciding where to invest plan assets. This is a really helpful article because sometimes it gets a bit confusing as to who you are, and you do play a lot of roles in your plan. So Theo, since you are the plan administrator, now you know how to formally elect those contributions by December 31st. In short, just complete your contribution form and then hand that to yourself or give a copy to your CPA if he or she is keeping track of your contributions. And then you have until tax day to make those contributions into your bank or brokerage account. Great question, Theo. Okay, next question here is from Glenn. Glenn says, what steps do I need to do if I want to lend from my solo 401k along with my other LLC? So Glenn, I want to get a little bit more clarification here. Do you mean that you want your 401k to do a deal and then your LLC is also doing a deal, or do you need them both to be a borrower together and to same deal? Okay, great. So we tend to be a bit more conservative here, Glenn. We do not recommend that you partner with your 401k on investment deals. Not to get too nerdy on you, but according to Internal Revenue Code Section 4975, you are a disqualified person from your retirement plan. You should not transact with or partner with disqualified persons in order to avoid a prohibited transaction. So I want to answer this under that assumption, Glenn, that we're going to be a little bit more conservative. For your 401k to be I know, boo, conservative, I know, but you know the NSA has probably got one of their people on this call right now. Hello, NSA, you're listening for the IRS. I get it. See, we're all following the rules. So Glenn, if you want your 401k to be a lender, totally cool. That's absolutely possible. We have a ton of clients that like to do notes and secured and unsecured from their solo 401k funds. And what you would do is just have your accountant, tax advisor, legal counsel write a promissory note. Your 401k is the lender. Somebody on the other side of the deal is the borrower. It's not you, by the way. Your 401k cannot lend to you. Remember, you're disqualified. Your 401k cannot lend to an immediate family member. These are other people, okay? So your 401k is a lender. Your sad emoji, yes, I know. You guys are great. So Glenn, your 401k is the lender. Somebody else is the borrower. You or your attorney, someone writes the promissory note with the 401k as the lender. You send the money from your 401k bank account to the borrower's bank account, and then they repay the loan repayments plus interest to your to your 401k bank or brokerage account. Now, I'm not an investment advisor, so I can't give investment advice, but what maybe would be potential to consider here, depending on the structure of the deal, is can the borrower have two different loans? and then your LLC be a lender? Let's say it's 100,000 that the borrower wants to lend. Can your 401k write a note for 60 grand and then your LLC write a note for 40 grand to the same borrower? I'm not sure how you're having the loan serviced, if you need to pay fees on stuff like that, but that might be worth considering if it's a good note that you want to lend on, and if there's a way to compliantly structure it so that the borrower has two deals. Those are two separate transactions, so that may be a possibility. We tend to be on the more conservative side of things because we are solo401k.com. So a lot of people come to us for help, and we just want to make sure that we're always super squeaky clean with the IRS. So that's what I would say in this case, Glenn. But okay, great question. Really good question. Thank you. Okay, this next question, I think this is a question from RF. So RF says, I am the trustee of my trust. Can I add a trustee at any time? And what would have to be the change? Would the bank need to be notified? The IRS? Do the documents need to be changed? Can there be more than one trustee? And if there are both trustees required to sign on things like rollovers, or can there only be one trustee? Fabulous question, RF. And I know you're on the session with us. So my follow-up question to you would be, who is the other person you want to make a trustee? The reason why I'm asking is usually in a solo 401k plan, you are the sole trustee. And that's because you, as a trustee, have something called fiduciary authority over the money. That means it is your responsibility to be a good steward of how those funds are invested. Your job as a trustee is to make good returns for the 401k and be responsible and prudent in the way that you're investing. Because it's your money, you're allowed to be your own trustee. When you start having other people be the trustee of your own retirement funds, sometimes the IRS requires something called an ERISA bond. That's ERISA bond. ERISA stands for, nerd alert, Employee Retirement Income Savings Act. I know you didn't expect to be having this exciting retirement discussion on a Saturday afternoon. But anyway, an ERISA bond is basically a bond that somebody else puts up saying that they're not going to screw you over when they have fiduciary authority over your funds. So in certain cases, we've had attorneys or CPAs that act as trustees on their clients' 401k plans. And in those instances, they usually do need an ERISA bond, because if they have signatory authority over their clients' funds, then they need to, it's kind of put their money where their mouth is, that they're going to be responsible and prudent in investing those funds. So RF, we don't typically recommend that you have someone other than you or your spouse as trustees in the plan. Now, I want to kind of take a little bit of a guess here as to why you might be asking this. Sometimes we have people say, well, I'm the sole trustee of my plan, but God forbid if something happens to me, I need somebody else to be able to take over. Like, what do I do? In your 401k plan documents, we provide something called a contingent successor trustee form. I'll see if I can be pulling it up in the background so that way you guys can see what it looks like. But a contingent successor trustee form essentially is where you are naming a contingent successor trustee. And a contingent successor trustee is who takes over the trustee duties in the case that you are incapacitated or no longer able to continue in the capacity of being a trustee. Yeah. I got you, Arif. You and I, we got each other. So let me show you what this looks like. Sharing my screen yet again. So in your plan signature pages, you guys have this. This is an appointment of contingent successor trustee. This is where you can list a CPA, your attorney, maybe a child, or maybe not a child, but your heirs, that you can have them be appointed as who takes over. Now, this is different than a beneficiary, okay? Contingent successor trustee is who becomes the trustee, who is in charge of winding down the plan, who's in charge of distributing assets. That's different than who actually gets the assets, who is the beneficiary. Still in your signature pages packet, if we scroll up a little bit, we'll come to the beneficiary designation form. This is where you're going to say who gets the assets. So who gets the assets after you pass and who is in charge of distributing the assets after you pass are not necessarily the same person. Sometimes if you have, for example, minor children, your children might be the beneficiaries and your estate planner might be a contingent successor trustee, or your attorney might be a contingent successor trustee, or a trusted contact, a family member. So your beneficiary and your contingent successor trustee do not need to be the same person. Once you have extra trustees on the plan, so maybe you're adding a spouse as another trustee, they don't always have to sign for every investment. It really just depends on the investment. So some title companies for real estate deals, for example, will make all the trustees sign. And some of them say that just one trustee signature is acceptable. It really depends on the investment. But I think in your case, RF, then what you're thinking of is the contingent successor trustee. So make sure that that's a trusted contact so that someone can step in, God forbid something happens to you, and then be able to distribute the funds to your beneficiaries. Very, very good question. Okay, awesome. And then, okay, good. Yes, RF, I know you and I were going to cover this later, so I'm glad we're getting to it now. RF's next question: how does a beneficiary get the right to roll that bank trust over into their own 401k or to cash out? What does that beneficiary need to present to the bank? Do they have to be their own trustee, or is the beneficiary the new trustee? Yeah, great question. So the beneficiary is not necessarily a trustee. The beneficiary is who receives the assets. Typically, what will happen is you want to make sure when you set up the solo 401k, you fill those forms out. You want to fill out who the beneficiary the beneficiary is, and you want to fill out who the contingent successor trustee is. Once you fill out those forms, keep them in a safe place, or make sure that whoever is handling your estate planning has a copy of them. We do not keep a copy of them. We are not your plan administrator. If you want to upload a signed copy to your 401k dashboard, that's a great idea. That way, if, knock on wood, God forbid something happens to you, we can download those and give them to the contingent successor. But I have to tell you, there have been cases in the past where someone completes their beneficiary designation form, they complete the contingent successor trustee form, they stick it in a file cabinet, the person passes away, their beneficiaries come to us, and we are not the plan administrator. So we can, with appropriate death certificates and things and, probate or named beneficiaries in a will, we can give the beneficiary access to the documents. But if we don't have a copy of your beneficiary designation form from your dashboard, then we don't have, we're not your attorney and we're not your estate planner in that case. So I do think that this strategy, the estate planning strategy, is really important. Complete your beneficiary designation form. Complete your contingent successor trustee form. Give that to the trusted contact. If that's your attorney or CPA, or if you have all of your documents, maybe your last will and testament in a safety deposit box or with an attorney on file or a family member, someone has your documents. Make sure that or they're in a desk drawer that everybody knows that's where they need to look, put your beneficiary and contingent successor trustee forms in that same place. After you pass, God willing, it's many, many, many years in the future, then you would probably need to go to the bank. Let's say it's Titan or Solera in this case. The beneficiary will need to provide a death certificate, probably the last will and testament, any probate information, and the beneficiary designation form. So essentially, a bank is going to need something signed by you along with a death certificate that will allow that beneficiary to be able to roll the assets out. Now, usually what happens is those assets are rolled into something like an inherited IRA. If it is a spouse, then you are able to roll those funds into a solo 401k. But if again, God willing, many, 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 many years in the future, or if when you leave this earth, if the funds are going to your kids, for example, then they would need to roll into an inherited IRA. They can't just roll into their the kids' solo 401k, even if they qualified. There's just the IRS has certain rules about how funds that are inherited pass into different retirement plans. So, but to keep it short, what you want to do is make sure those forms are completed and in a place where someone knows how to access them. And then the beneficiary would need to contact whoever has the asset. So going back to, I think it was Mauro's question, or maybe Charles, of how are we keeping track of whose money is whose? This is another really important reason why you want to keep good records of the plan. Your heirs need to know where the assets are. You know, if someone calls neighbors group after a client passes and says, well, where's their funds? We don't know. We don't know if you have Solera, Titan Bank, Schwab, Fidelity, promissory notes, you know, rental property in Hawaii. We are your plan document provider. We're not your administrator. You are your own administrator. So this is another really important reason why you want to keep track of records of where is the money, how much is in there, how are we going to roll it out once, you know, we leave this earth, and who does it go to? Have that estate plan in place. Okay, I know that can be a bit morbid on a Saturday, but I'm really glad you're bringing that up, RF. It's a very, very, very important part of estate planning that a lot of people overlook. Okay, so here we go. Next question from Russell. My 401k from 2019 did not require the 5500 EZ. In 2020, I will need to file the 5500 EZ. I read that it is due by the last day of the 7th month of the following year. Of course, this is not a solicitation for tax advice. I just want to make sure I have the right idea. Is this done in conjunction with the business return? If so, if the business return has an accepted extension, would that date also be extended, or is it filed a la carte? Love this question, Russell. And, you know, Russell, one thing, I know that you are a client of ours, so we will, and so first of all, congratulations on getting that threshold to needing to file the 5500 EZ. I'm going to share my screen again here. Let me make sure I am still logged in. Need to log back into our dashboard. And now I want to show you exactly what will happen for the 5500 EZ. So the 5500 EZ, the last day of the 7th month means July 31st. That's when the 5500 EZ is due. We will start sending you reminders in March or April, and it's really easy to do your 5500 EZ with us. We update this every year. We give you links to the instructions from the IRS directly. This is for 2019, of course, because it was due in July of this year. We put out a guide every single year on how the 5500 EZ needs to be completed and filed. And we have an FAQ that's available for you. So this is updated every year to make things easy for you. Get it? Huh? Fun. So, all right. When you're doing your 5500 EZ, again, you're going to want to have your plan records. So that big spreadsheet or QuickBooks, so you know what your numbers were. And then you just fill out this short form. You'll fill out this questionnaire and then click the big blue button at the bottom of the screen. And then our document software will actually create a 5500 EZ for you and put that PDF right on your 401k dashboard. And then you can review the form, make sure that it is truthful and accurate, show it to your CPA, and then file it with the IRS by July 31st. We're going to send reminders, a bunch of them, starting in March and April, and we will remind you like every 10 days until July, because we want to make sure that if you need to file it, that you have plenty of notice. And don't worry if you don't need to file the 5500 EZ. On every reminder, you can just have there's a little button that says, yeah, I don't need to file, or I've already filed, stop reminding me. And then you can stop the reminders. So Russell, the 5500 EZ is due by July 31st. And we make that filing really easy on your solo 401k dashboard. Great. Yeah, sounds really easy. Get it? Ha ha ha. Yeah. We're all jokesters together here on a Saturday. You're awesome, Russell. Okay. We've got time, I think, for one more question here. So next question comes from Jorge. So Jorge says, as long as the withdrawal is returned within 60 days, I think this is the time to bring funds back into a Roth account. Can I pull some money to invest, for example, in the stock market? And if this is the Jorge I think it is, then I think, Jorge, what you're talking about here is an IRA LLC. You're not talking about a solo 401k. And yes, that's true. You can take money out and return it within 60 days. And while it's out, you can do whatever you want with it, including investing in the stock market. The only note of caution I will provide is that 60 days goes by really, really fast. And we've had some clients that have said, I just need a little short-term loan. I'm going to pull a little money out of the IRA LLC. Something happens, time slips by, the deal doesn't turn out the way they think they do, and then they haven't had a chance to put the money back on time, and now they have to pay taxes on that taxable distribution. So yes, what you're asking you can do, Jorge, and just make sure you're setting about 5 to 10 reminders for yourself on your email, on your phone, everywhere, so that you know that you're returning the money within 60 days. And 60 days does not always mean like 60 days plus a couple extra. So if day 60 is a Sunday, for example, on the calendar, and the banks are closed, then when you put the money in on Monday, that's day 61. If there was an audit, the IRS can say that that was a taxable distribution. So it's really important that you're working backwards and calculating so that if day, 58, 59, 60, those are on bank holidays or weekends or things, always give yourself a buffer of a couple of extra days. So all right. Well, those are all of the questions that we've got for today. It is really nice actually to do these Q&As. We're doing them literally every single day through the end of the year. We'll be here at 3 p.m. Eastern time. And I just want to thank you guys so much for submitting your questions here. As I'm sure you can probably imagine, this time of year gets a little bit crazy with a ton of emails and a ton of voicemails coming in. And we do bring on extra staff. We bring on staff just for December to try to get back to everyone as quickly as possible. But sometimes it gets a little much. So it's really, really nice for you to either email us in your questions and then we can tackle them here together on the Q&As together, or to just join us every day at 3 p.m. Eastern, including Saturday, Sunday, holidays. I mean, every day for the end of the year, we'll be here at 3 p.m. to help answer your questions and make sure that you have what you need. So I hope you guys have an awesome rest of your Saturday. I will see you here tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern time if you have any questions, and have a